Hey, welcome into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics. And it's a fine Friday to do so. Wade, what's happening?
What's happening, Mo? Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody, really, here on this good-looking Friday. You're right. We got a jam-packed show, smack dab here at the end of the week. Should be fun for the next couple hours.
It should be, man. We got plenty to get into. Looking forward to it. In the second hour, we will be joined by Joel Anderson of The Ringer. Always fun when we get him on. We'll be talking a little college football. Big college football weekend this weekend. If last week seemed a little lackluster, that won't be a problem this time around. Some pretty high-powered matchups to talk about, and looking forward to talking to Joel Anderson from The Ringer about the college football landscape, both on the field this weekend, off the field as well. Always fun. In the next segment, we will be joined by Nashville Cats president and partner Jeff Fisher. The Cats making some news yesterday evening as they announced that they will play their home games in 2026 at F&M Bank Arena up in Clarksville after having played most of the past two seasons at Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, thus the Nashville Cats. So looking forward to talking to Jeff about what brought that about. I think we got a pretty good idea, but still getting it from the source would be a good thing, and just checking in with him on the state of the Cats as they get ready for their third year of AF1 football competition. So looking forward to that as well. We'll also be talking a little NBA, a little NFL, again, some college football, some Major League Baseball to get into as we head into the final weekend of the regular season, the final weekend of the season for a few teams. Little WNBA action. We got the semifinal series, plural, resuming tonight, game 3 for both of those best of 5 series there. We will check in on the Ryder Cup. Things haven't been going so well for the locals here early on, but we will get caught up on that as well. Got a little soccer to get to, a little NASCAR as well. So plenty to go around. And Wade and I will be closing the show in our final segment with the Wonder Slate as we give you our 10 weekend winners. So, again, big show. A lot to get into.
Huge show. You said it, Mo. This is the best sports weekend of the year between the massive slate and college football. You got Ravens Chiefs and kind of a loser leaves town matchup for old school wrestling fans there. Eagles Bucks should be fun. Ryder Cup, maybe the U.S. will get things going. And you still got a little drama at the end of the regular season for baseball. So a massive, massive slate over the next 48 hours.
Should be a lot of fun if you are a sports fan. This next couple of hours should be a lot of fun if you are a sports fan as well. We are going to, with no further ado, get into it with yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, gang. It is time for your Friday rundown, which means we wind back the clock and give you our Thursday results. We start with high school football. Main Street Prep's Game of the Week action last night. You heard it on MainStreetMediaRadio.com. Tullahoma outlasting Lawrence County 28-14 was your final score there down in Lawrenceburg. Mo Patton was even on hand. That's how big of a game it was down there in Lawcow yesterday. Zion Christian with a 28-8. They weren't the only team playing football, Tullahoma and Lawrence County. Zion Christian with a 28-8 win over Innovation Academy. And Providence Christian with a nice victory, 38-15 over Franklin County. Major League Baseball score from yesterday of local note, it was the Astros defeating the Athletics 11-5. And everybody learned a little bit more about the landing zone last night thanks to a flub from the Arizona Cardinals who fell to the Seattle Seahawks with a special teams snafu. 23-20 was your final. Hawks over the Cards on Thursday Night Football.
High school football schedule tonight. These games are all 7 o'clock kickoffs unless we let you know otherwise. Big area rivalry as we talked to Arcente Broom from Antioch earlier this week. Cane Ridge goes across Old Hickory Boulevard, taking on the Bears of Antioch tonight. Marshall County is at Battle Creek. Big Region 5-4A matchup there. Oakland is at Blackman. Ensworth goes to Brentwood Academy. Centennial is hosting Page. Camden Central comes to Cheatham County. Lipscomb Academy goes to Missouri, taking on Christian Brothers of Missouri, not Christian Brothers of Memphis. That is a 7 o'clock start. Kenwood is at Clarksville Northwest. Green Hill goes to Cookeville. Mount Juliet Christian is at Donaldson Christian. Loretto travels to Decatur County Riverside. East Nashville is at East Hickman. Hickman County is at East Robertson. Friendship Christian goes to Ezell Harding. Franklin Christian is hosting Nashville Christian. Battleground Academy goes to Franklin Road Academy. Lincoln County is at the Brickyard, taking on host Giles County at 7. White House is at Glencliff. Columbia Academy goes to Good Pasture. Davidson Academy travels to Grace Christian of Franklin. Harpeth is hosting Stewart County. Brentwood taking the long trip up to Paris, taking on Henry County. Cornersville is at Houston County. Beach goes to Hunters Lane. Franklin is at Independence. Christian Community goes to Joe Burns. And Overton hosts Wilson Central.
Other games on the slate for tonight. High school football action continues when Dixon County travels to Kirkwood. It'll be Stewart's Creek visiting Laverne tonight. Hillsboro's on the road at Lebanon. Summertown will make the trip over to Hohenwald to take on Lewis County. It'll be Greenbrier at Liberty Creek. Baylor traveling to MBA. Maplewood will host White House Heritage this evening. Clarksville Academy is on the road at Montgomery Central. Clarksville Northeast, a little bit further trip, taking on Mount Juliet tonight at 7 p.m. Other 7 o'clock kickoff. Scotts Hill at Mount Pleasant. Lawson traveling to Nolansville. Father Ryan will be at Pope John Paul II. Look for Hendersonville at Portland this evening. Middle Tennessee Christian is on the road at Providence Academy. CPA traveling to Ravenwood. Eagleville is on the road tonight at Richland. Columbia traveling to Riverdale. Siegel visiting Rockvale tonight. McGavock will be at Rossview. Coffee County at Smyrna. Creekwood is on the road at Spring Hill. Pearl Cone will take a trip over to Springfield tonight. Gallatin is visiting Station Camp. Shelbyville at Summit. Fairview will be at Sycamore tonight. Community traveling to Watertown. And our final 2 contests tonight, Clarksville will be at West Creek and Westmoreland will be at Whites Creek.
In volleyball action this evening, it's a 4:30 start for Summertown at Columbia Academy. At 6, Murfreesboro Central goes to Cannon County, and also at 6, Battle Creek is at Columbia Central. On the pitch tonight, 6 o'clock first touches for Martin Luther King at Hume Fogg and for Lead Academy at McGavock. Major League Baseball action of interest here. Pittsburgh is at Atlanta. That's a 6:15 first pitch. You can see it on FanDuel Sports. And at 8:38, not a minute later, it'll be the Houston Astros at the Los Angeles Angels. WNBA semifinal action. Las Vegas is at Indiana. That's a 6:30 start. Minnesota is at Phoenix. That's an 8:30 start. Both games will be seen on ESPN2. And in golf, the Ryder Cup is underway. You can see it on NBC and on NBC Sports.
Other action as we roll into the weekend. Got one little old volleyball game on Saturday, high school action, as Hendersonville will travel to Tennessee. That game gets underway at 11 a.m. One single girls soccer matchup at 6:30 tomorrow night. Cookeville's on the road at Franklin. Let's go college football. We got a slew of games locally to update you guys on for tomorrow. Beginning at 11:45 on the SEC Network, Utah State will be at Vanderbilt. At 1 p.m. on ESPN+, the Utah Tech Trailblazers, my squad, Mo, will be in town taking on Austin Peay. Best of luck to them because Austin Peay is a wagon this year. 1 p.m. on ESPN+. At 3:15 on the SEC Network, it'll be Tennessee at Mississippi State. At 3:30, Tennessee Tech traveling to Nissan Stadium to meet the TSU Tigers. That game will also be shown on ESPN+. Finally, on ESPN+, at 5 o'clock, MTSU travels to Kennesaw State. MLS action, Nashville SC is back in action tomorrow at 7:30. They will meet the Houston Dynamo in a game that can be seen on Apple TV. MLB action beginning tomorrow night at 6:15 on FanDuel Sports South, the Pirates and the Braves. And at 8:38, it'll be the Astros at the Angels.
Sunday action, 2:05. Houston is at the Angels. I'm sorry, 2:07. Excuse me. And at 2:15, the Pirates and Braves will finish up the regular season. You can see that one on FanDuel Sports as well. NFL action, Tennessee goes to Houston. That is a 12 noon kickoff. You can see it on CBS. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown. Brought to you by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. Earlier this summer, Ja Morant separated from his previous agent, apparently, and has not chosen another one. Friend of the show, Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian, is reporting that Ja will negotiate his next contract without an agent. Again, he had been represented by Lift Sports Management, easy for me to say, which had been led by former Grizzly Mike Miller. Again, they parted ways in June. And Ja is now becoming the first client of ILOC, quote, a new athlete-focused strategic advisory firm that will support Morant through the negotiation process. So, I mean, it's not like Ja is actually going to be sitting in there hammering things out, I don't guess, but this is kind of the path that SGA and Jaylen Brown from Oklahoma City and Boston have both taken here of late. And it's something that apparently Morant is going to take on as well. So I guess he's going to save some money by doing this rather than the traditional agent's cut of the deal and that kind of thing. But I'm not sure exactly what all the significance of this decision for Ja would be. Wade, again, as our resident NBA fan / analyst, you might have a better feel for, the significance of this.
Well, number one, yeah, it kind of gives off that, chance to maybe save a few pennies here, a few pennies there if you don't have a true dedicated agent in. And, he's obviously going to have a group, especially with this layout like you presented a moment ago, Mo. It seems like there will be a little, kind of trust, if you will, a consultation, kind of whisper in his ear. You mentioned SGA, Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid, kind of paving the way in a sense. So this is not super uncharted territory, but it is going to be interesting. And, he's coming up, eligible for a 5-year max, super max extension next summer. Obviously, there's questions about his on-court availability, both in terms of injury and off-court incident. So putting together a big season and kind of doing that without an agent, to me, seems like a pretty scary proposition. But, Ja, coming out of Murray State, kind of being the proverbial underdog most of his career, maybe that's a role he's comfortable in. And this will be kind of a fascinating case study as this season progresses for sure, for both he and the Grizzlies.
Yeah, like you said, he's got a lot to prove this time around, just from the health standpoint. I really, and maybe I'm being a little optimistic here. I feel like some of that off-court stuff is behind him. I hope it is. I want to think it is. Last year was relatively quiet, needed to be, but was, and so maybe he's moving in the right direction as far as that goes. Now, if he can, I don't know how, if you're Ja Morant, you figure out how to stay healthy because he plays so hard and he's not a big guy. So bumps and bruises are a little bit different for him, and the high flying game that he plays. And, he told us there for a while he was going to stop dunking, and that lasted for about that long. But, sometimes just the way you play kind of leads to some of the inavailability that he has experienced over the course of his NBA career.
For sure. And it's going to be fascinating, right? At his peak, which was his rookie season, he wins Rookie of the Year honors. He played in 67 out of those 82 regular season games. He's not reached that number even close ever since, playing 63 his second year. Played 50 last year, but Memphis is in a very odd situation. They got offered so much for the Desmond Bane deal that they kind of had to take it just because they're getting so many assets in return. but it kind of flipped their roster, and they're kind of almost in no man's land. And that's not a great place to be in a loaded Western Conference. So without Ja, if he's not available, now to me it seems like he's going to have to really put that test in terms of being available for as many games as possible to fruition here. And if he can do that, Memphis still is going to be, to be heard from in some capacity in the West. But if he kind of falls below 60, falls below 50 games even, then we're certainly, talking about a Memphis team that probably is going to be in a lot of trouble next year.
Yeah, I mean, he is certainly the straw that stirs their drink, and as they say so often in professional sports, the best ability is availability, and he's, it feels like that's more the case for him and Memphis than maybe it is for a lot of folks, just because, so much of what they do kind of circles around him. So it's going to be interesting, and if he can't be on the floor, then why are you paying him? So he kind of loses a negotiations chip, I would think, whether he has an agent or not, if he can't prove himself to be a guy that can go to the post, fairly often for this team. So it's going to be something to keep an eye on as the season progresses. But yeah, he is heading into his next negotiations with an advisory group rather than with an agent. So,
and I'll be curious to see how long that lasts too. Maybe we get a couple months down the road and not so mysteriously we see some folks kind of coming back to his aid. We saw SGA obviously do it, and it paid off in spades with an MVP and a Supermax deal. But I wouldn't be shocked if this is not the last type of discussion we're having regarding this guy. Yeah,
and not everybody is SGA either. So everything really kind of fell into place for him this year. So that really helped that workout, I would think. So again, we'll be keeping an eye on it. Let's take a break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will be talking some Nashville Cats with team president and partner Jeff Fisher. Stick around.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now I'm ready, guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are hoping to regain the presence of Nashville Cats president and partner Jeff Fisher to talk a little bit about the news from yesterday that the Nashville Cats will play their 2026 home games at F&M Bank Arena up in Clarksville. This will be the third season of the Nashville Cats in this iteration playing in the Arena Football One League. And in each of the past 2 years, they've reached the postseason, advancing to the semifinals in 2024, reaching the championship game this past year, playing their entire postseason this past year at F&M Bank and F&M Bank Arena, and clearly liking what they saw out of that. So again, the announcement was made yesterday that they will play their 2026 home games at F&M Bank Arena rather than Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, where they had played since their reboot to start the 2024 season. We had Jeff, we lost Jeff, and we don't have Jeff right now. So again, hoping to get him back, but regardless, big news, Wade.
Yeah, big news there for the Cats. And, maybe not perhaps shocked, I suppose, and not a diss at all on Nashville and not a diss at all on what we saw at Municipal. But just the fact that F&M Bank Arena just provides, it's a newer building, newer facility for first and foremost. And number two, kind of scratching a little bit of an itch for, Clarksville and Nashville to an extent, but majority Clarksville, obviously, kind of who are strapped in a sense for, high-level sporting entertainment sometimes. We talked about the Govs and the great things that they do. And, it's a short drive down to Nashville in the grand scheme of things, but kind of having a little something in your own backyard is kind of neat, and they really turned out and supported. Now, again, that Nashville and Municipal didn't, but we really saw a lot of love shared at F&M Bank Arena last year.
For real, absolutely. It was pretty. I'm kind of at a loss for words. The way that community and that facility embraced the Nashville Cats on the opportunities that they had to do so. Opened in July of 23, and this was, arguably the biggest get that they've had since the arena's opening 3 summers or so ago. So big deal for them. The community really embraced them on those opportunities when they did play at F&M Bank. Great turnout, great environment. Everybody just glowed basically about it. And so you could kind of see this coming, but the fact that it is official that the Cats are going to play their 2026 season in Clarksville, it was announced for 2026, and I don't know, what the plan is past that. That was one of the questions that I would have for Jeff Fisher. Should we get him back on? Is this a 1-year thing or is this a permanent thing? But regardless, this has got to be great for Clarksville and Montgomery County, and it's got to be great for the Cats. With, like you said, Wade, with all due respect to Municipal Auditorium, this is a significantly newer facility, and it's got a lot of bells and whistles and that kind of thing, and a lot of amenities that Municipal does not have. And it's got to be a lot easier to put on an arena football game in this facility, probably for the people operating that for the Cats as well. So big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to burn through all my material here, because if Fish comes back, we certainly want to ask him this stuff. But, I'm interested too. We probably won't know the true, meat and potatoes of contracts and things of that nature. But to me, just on its surface level, again, not taking anything away from Nashville Municipal, but it just seems like F&M Bank Arena and that community really just said, okay, we'll take you in. We'll be your permanent. And that's the main thing, right, Mo? We saw a number of different occasions over the last couple of seasons where you maybe thought there was going to be a game played at Municipal only to find out there wasn't. There was an event that was double booked. I mean, things of that nature. They have a much more active kind of calendar in terms of dates and just a number of events there. So kind of having a dedicated arena is a massive step in the right direction. I know it seems really, really small, and I know that's kind of the level we're talking about here. But the fact is you actually have a bona fide, hey, this is our home building. This is where everything takes place. We're not here one week, here the next. That's got to account for something for a team that was already kind of punching above its weight, juggling the schedule as it was.
And I think that's a big deal, particularly with the volatility of this league. It kind of felt like things kind of shifted on the fly at times. And so to have that knowledge that, whenever we need to actually be able to play a home game, we will have that. So I think that's probably big in this development as well. Again, the Nashville Cats announced yesterday that they will play their 2026 home games in Arena Football 1 at F&M Bank Arena in Clarksville.
And the other thing too is, yes, we're gonna have the conversation every year of, is the league going to be solvent or the franchise is going to be solvent. This kind of move signifies, hey, we're about as rock solid as it gets, and you got a great ownership group with Jeff Fisher among some others. John Gruden signed on last year. I mean, those are just kind of your celebrity names in a sense, right? I mean, you're not even talking about the real big dogs in terms of financial pockets beneath the scenes, but I said all that about Nashville, and, I was speaking in glowing terms. If you read between the lines a little bit, there were a couple shots kind of thrown a little bit in some of the press material that came out of this when it says, quote, "It has become clear that Clarksville represents a bold contrast to Nashville, one that is ready to embrace professional arena football in its own way." If you want to look at it one way, you can. If you want to look at it one way, you certainly could. Kind of feels like a little bit of a dig, but if nothing else, I think they're just glad and happy to kind of be in a permanent home.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. And, this kind of adds to, the inventory for F&M Bank Arena. They host a hockey team, the Red River Spartans. Obviously, they are the home arena for Austin Peay men's and women's basketball, which plays in the Atlantic Sun Conference. So, they've got some sporting events already lined up, and this just kind of adds to that. Last night, they played a Gold Star Showcase. The Nashville Predators played a split squad scrimmage up there, and the Fort Campbell community is big in this as well, and they really turned out during those playoff games last year as well. And I think there's some synergy between the Nashville Cats and the Fort Campbell community. So this is big as far as that goes as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point that I was making a moment ago in a sense. It's kind of like Auburn and Alabama football in a sense, right? I mean, when there's not a professional team really kind of around, and I know the Cats obviously are a professional team, but when there's not a true bona fide, NHL, NBA, Major Four sports franchise around, the quote-unquote minor leagues become the big leagues. And, Auburn and Alabama, that is basically NFL on steroids down there in terms of their fan appreciation and engagement. And that's kind of on a similar scale, feels like what's happening with Clarksville. And to your point, great point, with Fort Campbell. Folks always kind of looking for some entertainment. Folks coming from all walks of life and all different communities across the country, kind of melting right there in Fort Campbell, and kind of have embraced what they got with the Cats here.
For sure. And, if you've not been to an arena football game, you should go. It's been a while since I have been, but the first iteration of the Cats, when they were playing at Municipal, and it was electric. I mean, I knew a lot of folks that had season tickets and that kind of thing. It's a great game. I mean, it's obviously a condensed area and that kind of everything that goes with that. But it's a lot of fun. And you can't go wrong with Johnny's Big Burger up in Clarksville either. So where you spend some time in Clarksville, I imagine you've been to Johnny's once or twice.
Been to Johnny's, like I said, second time this week. We mentioned the great James Horn. He's bought me many of burgers at Johnny's, and Clarksville shows up. Clarksville's an interesting town, right? Because of that Fort Campbell presence and because of the community there from Austin Peay. Kind of an odd hodgepodge melting pot. A lot of folks working in Nashville and commuting, but a lot of folks still love their team. But at a minimum, they come out and support kind of what they feel is theirs. And this move kind of really further solidifies that. And, we've had several guests in the last calendar year from the Cats organization, both administratively and roster-wise, that have spoke so glowingly about the bells and whistles, for a facility that has only been up and running a couple of years. This, without looking at the full arena roster, I can't imagine there are much better digs than what they've got. So maybe tying that to free agency, maybe tying that to ticket sales, but it all goes back to my original kind of point of, if this league is going to remain solvent, it feels like in many regards they are just hanging on a thread every year, but they're also hanging on Nashville being a rock-solid franchise. And to me, they have proven that they're the most rock-solid franchise in that whole sport at the moment.
Yeah, it seems so. You heard, even Albany that won the league last year, you heard issues with making payroll and different things like that. In a lot of instances, it has kind of seemed to be pretty fly by night, but you didn't really hear that a whole lot about the Nashville Cats. And, that's a tribute to their, team ownership, team leadership, that kind of thing. And again, this is another step in that direction, solidifying where they're going to play their home games and playing their games in a appealing facility such as F&M Bank Arena. So again, big move for the Cats here, nailing down Clarksville and F&M Bank Arena for their 2026 home games, the home portion of their Arena Football 1 season next spring. Let's shift gears. Wade, you mentioned Thursday night football. I didn't get to see it, but walk me through what happened in that Seattle 23-20 win over Arizona.
Well, the good news is, Mo, I was, along with our trusty producer, Mark Rogers, I was helping produce our Main Street broadcast last night. Big shout out to our crew, AJ Good and Ben Luna down there in Lawrence County for simulcasting our game last night. So I was in the green room, if you will, kind of producing that, but I had the game up on the second TV, and they did it again, Mo. Two things. Number one, the NFL feeds you a few of these really impressive matchups at the start of the season on Thursday night, and then you kind of get used to it. And then they pull the rug from you, and then the same script happens. You're watching this game, and it's 10-3 at halftime, and you're thinking, why in the world am I watching this football game? Barely even could be considered a game. But then the NFL does what the NFL does. Just when you think the Cardinals are done, dead, and dusted, they come roaring back, tie the game up late. Looks like we're headed to overtime. I mentioned it in the rundown. A little bit of issue with the landing zone. All you got to do is get the ball to the 20. Otherwise, you're going to have that penalty. Kicker for the Cardinals did not get the ball to the 20. So as a result, Seattle gets the ball at the 40. And we know how well kickers are kicking with those brand new footballs this year. They march right into field goal range, and Myers wins it with essentially a walk-off. It was an ugly game at times. We saw Kyler Murray do Kyler Murray things. Had a nice rush of about 29 yards, maybe 30 yards midway in the game, and you're just thinking, okay, here come the Cardinals, but they just couldn't finish. Mike McDonald's got the defense for Seattle playing so well, they really had Arizona kind of bottled up for a big chunk of this game. Marvin Harrison was on a milk carton for a long, long stretch, had a ugly drop that led directly to an interception, a wild play in the first half, and you're thinking, where in the world is this going with this can't-miss prospect? And then, boom, he makes a massive touchdown catch in the second half, and then he makes a massive catch on the sidelines to help them eventually tie it up. Ugly game, but we couldn't kind of pry our eyes away from it, which is kind of what happens on Thursday night in the NFL.
Yeah, kind of that train wreck that you can't tear your eyes away from. Yeah, so, okay. All right.
Next week, however, it'll be ugly, but next week we do get 49ers Rams, which should be pretty fascinating. Again, another NFC West battle.
Yeah, David and I talked about it yesterday, how competitive the NFC West is to this point. San Francisco sitting there as one of the final 6 undefeateds, but each of the other 3 teams coming into last night at 2-1. And so Seattle with that win last night, improving to 3-1, obviously. But yeah, it feels like it's going to kind of be that way all year in that division.
It's going to be that way all year. And the 49ers, they're dinged up. We saw Mac Jones, come off the bench, and, somehow, some way, the 49ers have won, and the Rams would be undefeated if not for that thick six we were talking about with the blocked field goal against the Eagles, most likely. So that'll be a fun showdown next week. But yes, that division is always, always competitive. It's going to be another fun weekend. I'm looking forward to catching, speaking of the Eagles, they got a big showdown versus the Bucs at high noon coming up on Sunday down in Tampa in the heat. The Eagles are a small favorite in that game, but it should be a fantastic one. And then, I can't believe I'm saying this, Mo, but the 3-0 Colts, they have their own date with the Rams. So the Colts and Rams, a game that might have been a throwaway 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden you can't turn your eyes off of it. In addition, well, what kind of bizarro world are we living in, right? Because then at the same time, the 1-2 Ravens are playing the 1-2 Chiefs. And I said it earlier, it's not quite a loser leaves town match, but it certainly feels like one.
It's pretty close, I would think, because, I mean, at 1-3, whichever of those teams gets there, particularly if it's Kansas City, I guess, with Denver playing the way they're playing right now, with the Chargers, it's kind of an uphill climb. I think it would be easier for Baltimore to get back into contention in the North from 1-3 than it would be for the Chiefs, but that's not a good place for either of those teams, I don't think.
Don't think so, and you're right. Still, the AFC is a cliff face, and you have 4 or 5 maybe good teams at the top, and then after that it really falls off a cliff. So no matter who loses this game, you still have a little glimmer of hope and a little glimmer of light. Those teams are too talented and too well coached at their core not to probably make a run for at least a wild card berth. But yes, it does feel like the loser of this game, maybe the Ravens. Just because the Bengals and Steelers, even though they're 2-1, don't necessarily look like world beaters at the moment, maybe the Ravens could claw back in the division. But yeah, with the Chargers undefeated, with the Broncos playing not particularly great, but kind of still having those preseason expectations, it feels like a much taller climb for the Chiefs to maybe win that division if they drop this one.
It does. Obviously, there's a 12 noon ball game out in Houston involving a certain local National Football League team as well, trying to avoid further frustration, among other things. Titans going to Houston, trying not to lose their 10th straight ball game.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough task.
Yeah, and this team lost 10 straight under Ken Wisenhunt en route to his 3-20 dubious finish at the top of this franchise. They lost 8 straight under Mike Vrabel over the 22 and 23 seasons, but lost 6 straight to close last year. They've lost their first 3 this time. 10 in a row staring them in the face, and that's not great.
No, and it's going to have to be an ugly, for all of the talk about when Brian Callahan was brought in to coach this team, it thought that the offense was kind of going to get revolutionized, and we wouldn't end up in these 20-17, these 13-10 type battles where you're just living and dying and hoping to win, like we kind of saw under Mike Vrabel. You thought the offense would be a little more free-flowing. That has not been the case in any shape, form, or fashion. It feels like the Titans will have to kind of go throwback if they want to win this game. Vegas has it at around 7.5 points in favor of Houston, so the Titans are going to have to dig deep, and they're going to have to do it again without J.C. Latham. We obviously have mentioned the fact that Devontae Sweat is now on the IR for the next couple of weeks. They also, just for good measure, added Khalil Mullings, one of your backup running backs, to the IR, the rookie out of Michigan. So Titans are not healthy. The Texans are a little banged up. Derek Stingley might not play. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. Haven't had a designation for today. Nico Collins looks like he will go in this contest, though. But the considerably less banged up are the Texans. The only good news, Mo, for that is the Titans. Man, if Sweat was in this game, I would feel a lot more confident because the Texans have an absolute turnstile of an offensive line at the moment, which is saying something when you're talking about a team playing the Tennessee Titans. But I digress. The fact is, I don't feel quite as confident, and this is going to be a yucky, kind of ugly game. We even saw Cam Ward, a limited participant, earlier this week, but he will be good to go. If the Titans are going to win, it certainly feels like it'll be a throwback 14-10, kind of just grind it out and hang on for dear life type victory.
So you're saying take Tennessee at 7.5?
I'm not saying that. I can't in good faith tell anybody to do that. The Titans, I forget the exact number, but the Titans had, I'll pull this up by the end of this, but they had the worst record in the history of the NFL last year. They went 2-15 against the spread last year in 2024. Is the worst in NFL history since they've been keeping track of such statistics. Hadn't done very well this year, so I can't in good faith tell people what to do with their money this week. But 7 points, hey, at least you're free rolling for a push. If the Titans lose by 6.5, you cover, obviously. If they lose by 7, maybe you get your money back. But no, I cannot give that out in good faith. It'll be an ugly game, I think. And if the Titans lose, the question will obviously be, how ugly does it get coming back?
I'm looking at an over-under number, Wade, of 39.5.
Points at a premium.
Yeah, so might want to pound that if nothing else. But yeah, the Titans and Houston hooking up in Houston at 12 noon. All of this, though, is a prelude to the 7:20 game Sunday night on NBC. The 1-2 Cowboys hosting the 2-1 Green Bay Packers with edge rusher Micah Parsons.
Wild, the NFL scriptwriters couldn't have obviously dreamed up a better situation. You got Parsons coming back. This is wild for a number of reasons, but even crazier, he had bought a suite for his family, before the season. He doesn't need the suite for his family in Dallas anymore, but they won't give him a refund. So now he gets to have his entire family come and cheer against the Cowboys. It's going to be interesting. It's certainly going to be a kind of a circus that you can't peel your eyes away from. In theory, the Packers should roll in this game, especially because Dallas's secondary has been so porous. But the Packers didn't exactly look great. I know the Browns got an elite defense, but the Packers didn't exactly look great in their loss Sunday. So it'll be an ugly one as well. But yeah, we'll be tuned in come Sunday night as Parsons and co. make their return to Big D.
Are the Cowboys going out of their way to antagonize Parsons in the aftermath of this move? Because apparently Jerry Jones made a statement earlier this week on one of the local radio stations out there regarding Parsons. While he does make great plays, there is also a way to approach playing against Micah. As we know, we didn't exactly win the Super Bowl those years.
Yeah, and be good to ask Joel about that when he comes in the second hour right there in the Lone Star State. But yeah, going out of his way, and they're not going to do a tribute video, which I kind of agree with. I mean, the guy was on your team like 3 weeks ago. He hadn't even got time to get your tears all the way out of your system yet if you're Dallas, I feel like. So it feels like he's stirring the pot, but that's what Jerry is. He's half NFL owner, half wrestling promoter, essentially. And the fact is, we're sitting here at 2:44 on a Friday talking about the Dallas Cowboys, a team that we really, realistically have no business talking about, but we find ourselves doing it. For a 1-2 franchise, they continue to thrust themselves somehow, some way into the national conversation.
Yeah, and not for their play.
Yeah, so. I mean, hey, if we're not going to win, at least we want them to talk about us. And to that extent, you kind of got to tip your cap to Jerry.
Negative publicity is better than none, I guess, maybe.
In that sense, I think you're onto something. That game in particular, scrolling through here, Cowboys, yeah, I mentioned Packers are favored by 7, but they haven't looked exactly great. I know it was just one game, and like I mentioned, the Browns defense is one of the top 5 defenses in the league, but the Packers, first couple of weeks, you're thinking, oh man, they're rolling. They look like they might even go undefeated, and then poof. Really stunk up the place at Detroit. I would not be shocked if Dallas is gamey for this. There certainly will be obviously a flood of emotion on both sidelines. And Sunday night,
both sides.
Yeah, get ready. Turn the volume up. Collinsworth will be oohing and ahhing over every single play, so it should be fun. And if Dallas somehow rallies the troops and wins that game, now all of a sudden, if you're the Packers, you're in kind of a world of hurt because the Lions seemingly have, after that week 1 dud against the Packers, they have seemingly found every ounce of mojo and then some that they had from a year ago.
And don't forget about the Bears all of a sudden either. So, yeah, could get interesting in the NFC North depending on how this one goes on Sunday night.
Well, hey, let's preface that. The Bears, they won a game, but they beat the Cowboys. So let's just put that back in full circle there. And, the Vikings the Vikings have looked tremendously improved from 2 weeks ago on that real clunker on Monday Night Football versus the Falcons. If the Vikings scrap their way to a win over in Dublin this weekend, they'll be sitting there at 3-1. Could be Lions, could be Vikings tied to top the NFC North, kind of like we saw at the end of last season pretty much.
There we go. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stick around.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
September 26, 1997, Rafael Belliard's two-run home run in the top of the seventh pulled Atlanta into a 6-6 tie with the Mets and eventually forced extra innings before the Braves scored on an 11th inning RBI base hit by Danny Bautista, and Kerry Lightenberg retired the host in order to preserve a 7-6 victory at Shea Stadium. The homer was Belliard's first in more than 10 years, his most previous long ball coming on May 5th, 1987. That was this day in Braves history. The light-hitting Rafael Belliard, the hero for the Braves on this day. What's that? That's 28 years ago. So, Braves open their final regular season series tonight when Pittsburgh comes to town. The Pirates coming in at 69 and 96 games behind the Atlanta Braves, 75 and 84 performance thus far this season. Mitch Keller getting the start for the Bucks, 6 and 15 with a 4.22 earned run average. Joey Wentz, one of a number of midseason acquisitions by the Braves for that pitching rotation, 5 and 6 with a 5.46 earned run average, getting the ball for Atlanta in one of the final three games of the season. Again, he'll be followed by Spencer Strider tomorrow, and Charlie Morton is going to start Sunday's season finale. He'll be followed by Chris Sale. So the feel-good vibes for Sunday should be at a premium as the Braves limp to the finish here. But, the Braves have won 10 of their last 11 now. They lost on Wednesday against Washington, ending a 10-game winning streak there. They still got a shot to finish third in the National League East. They are 2 games behind Miami. The Marlins are 77 and 82, and they finish up at home against New York. The Mets trying to secure a postseason berth as well. So not really fond of needing help from the Mets to accomplish something, but if the Braves can some kind of way maybe get 2 of 3 in the Mets sweep or something like that, maybe third place is in range for Atlanta here by the end of the weekend. So be keeping an eye on that.
Meanwhile, popping back in here, so bring me up to speed on our MLB section.
We were just talking about the Braves finishing up the season against Pittsburgh, but also Houston trying to finish up the season at the Angels, and they've got some work to do, the Astros do. If the season ended today, they would be out of the postseason. They are a game out of the third and final wild card spot out of the American League. Detroit and Cleveland playing for the AL Central Championship and for a wild card spot as well. Detroit goes to Boston tonight. Cleveland is hosting Texas, but again, Houston is a game back of those two teams for that third wild card spot because the Yankees and Boston are going to claim the top 2, or Toronto and Boston. Right now, actually, Toronto and the Yankees are tied atop the AL East. So there are some positions still to be decided in the American League, but you've got 3 teams that have clinched postseason berths. The Blue Jays, the Yankees, and the Mariners are already in. 3 still to go. Again, 5 of the 6 teams are set in the National League: Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and the Dodgers, as well as the Cubs and the Padres. So still plenty going on this weekend. A lot of excitement in Major League Baseball as things come to a close for the regular season.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Houston because I'm afraid they're going to be the team that's left out. Fangraphs dropping their odds to about 29%, 28.7 to be exact. And it was tough, Mo, because they finally got the win they needed yesterday, but then the Tigers decided to wake up. The Tigers had a leadoff home run. I don't think they've hit a home run in approximately 4 months. And then they club out 2 in the first inning. Needed them to lose yesterday. Instead, they helped their case with the win over Cleveland. So that kind of puts them 2 in jockeying position, not only for the Central, but obviously keeping Houston 1 game further at bay. It's going to be tough, but for a season that Houston has had its number of chances. They lost some games just recently, as a couple weeks ago, and were only floating by because Seattle wasn't able to cash in. All of a sudden, Seattle starts cashing in, and Houston never has really recovered. For a team that's, going to flirt with winning 90 games, they won't get there, but they'll flirt with 90. They're going to be on the outside looking in unless something crazy, it feels like, happens over the weekend.
Yeah. Something crazy like the Mariners winning 17 of their last 18. I mean, Houston had its struggles, but if Seattle goes on a run like that, there's only so much you can do, really.
Only so much you can do, and this is the interesting part because Seattle made all these aggressive moves. If you go back, toward that, around that trade deadline, Seattle was making moves a week or 2 weeks before the deadline, kind of getting out ahead of everybody. And you could sense, okay, they're loading up. And I said it on this show a couple different times. They don't care if they win the West or they just get in, but their intentions, they're making, it's like an old Wild Wild West show. They're making their intentions known. They were reaching for the holster, and their intentions are to make a deep postseason run, win the World Series with the moves that they made. It took a while to gel. We were kind of almost wondering if the moves, had just disrupted and derailed a lot of their chemistry. But all of a sudden, they can't lose. Big dumpers hitting homers left and right, and all of a sudden, Seattle,
and so is Suarez.
Suarez, it was the guy, obviously, that kind of is the real crux of that around the deadline. And so you're wondering, okay, maybe it just took them a while to get going. They show no signs of slowing down. And I was really kind of fascinated by that Guardians loss yesterday because they were absolutely rolling as well. Had kind of mastered the Tigers as of late, and then poof, in the blink of an eye, it's 2-0 in the top of the first, and Cleveland never recovered. So it'll be a fun weekend series. I wish, in a sense, that if Houston wasn't going to make it, that the Rangers were also in contention because that would make that Rangers-Guardians series even more compelling. But it is still going to be a wild, wild weekend to get us ready for the postseason next week.
Absolutely. Plenty to keep an eye on here over the weekend to get ready for playoff baseball starting next week, minus the Braves, possibly minus the Astros as well. So, lot to keep an eye on.
I love this, Mo. They got a 28.7% chance to make the playoffs. They got a 1.1% chance though to win the World Series, which is almost as much as the Guardians have. The Guardians have a 1.6% chance, according to Fangraphs, to win the World Series. So, if they could somehow get in the playoffs, maybe banking on a little history, maybe banking on their lineup coming to life. But I'm not holding out hope this weekend.
I understand. Let's take a break and wrap up hour number 1 of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back for hour number 3, and we'll see what happens. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
It's hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Game 3 of the WNBA semifinals get going tonight, both in Indianapolis and in Phoenix. The number 2 seed Las Vegas Aces go to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, taking on the 6th-seeded Indiana Fever. That's a 6:30 tip on ESPN2 tonight. That is followed by the top-seeded Minnesota Lynx and the number 4 seed Phoenix Mercury at 8:30 on the Deuce. Again, both those series are tied at 1 apiece. Wade, thoughts?
Thoughts remain the same. I would be a little more curious about the Mercury and their effort tonight, being back at home after stealing that second game. It felt like the Fever, just almost in a sense, it was almost like Vegas showed up and said, all right, we're Vegas, you're the Zombie Fever, we're going to win. And in game 1, that they got that win snatched right out from underneath them. Feels like game 2 with the Mercury, meanwhile, backs against the wall. You know, we go into your place, we need a win, hit a crazy shot, may or may not have traveled. That's not for me to debate, however, but hit a crazy shot to force overtime and then win it in overtime. That one to me is a little more compelling. It feels like that Vegas should kind of show up and be able to take care of business tonight. But I'm not quite as certain as I am about the Mercury, which kind of is odd because it feels like on paper the Aces Fever series should be more up for grabs. But I'm oddly compelled and oddly intrigued by what I see out of the Mercury tonight.
Yeah, it feels like you said, the Aces should take care of business, but this Indiana team has kind of fought back off the deck so many times that it's kind of tough to count them out.
They really, really have kind of just risen from the depths, right? I mean, the fact is, you look down their bench and they have a starting five basically in street clothes. And, when you have Caitlin Clark, when you have Sophie Cunningham, when Colson is out there, I mean, they got numbers of players that these other franchises would kill for to have in their starting five, and they're just kind of sitting there. It's been a testament to what they've done, and they've rallied. And this is kind of what I was worried about with Vegas is, when they face adversity, you're obviously not going to close the season on like a 26-game, 28-game win streak, whatever that would have amounted to. Mm-hmm. But how do you bounce back after getting punched? We saw him take a pretty good haymaker in the first round. Don't know that this haymaker was as emphatic because, if this was obviously a best-of-3 game series, we certainly would be talking a lot more drama about these games tonight. But I'm going to stick with my guns, and I say Vegas probably gets a win tonight. And, man, it's a toss-up. I'm going to pick the Lynx probably to win, but I will not be shocked if the Mercury win, and I will also maybe not be shocked if we talk about another overtime performance tonight.
It's tough to pick against the Lynx. I mean, just based on the regular season that they had. But it almost feels like the Mercury might be built for this time of year, too. So, should be a pretty compelling matchup tonight in Game 3, especially, like you said, with Phoenix being at home. You keep referring to the zombie fever, and, man, it really feels like it fits with the number of folks that they've got unavailable to them. But I just feel like, and it sounds like a broken record, but we talked about it, David and I did on various occasions. It feels like that championship pedigree of the Aces is going to come through at some point. And, Indiana's a little shorthanded, but at the same time, when you've got Kelsey Mitchell and Odyssey Sims and some of the folks that Aaliyah Boston, you feel like you're going to get their best shot. But it just stands to reason that the Aces ultimately figure out a way to get it done. And I don't think they drop this one tonight to, get their backs back against the wall again. So, again, should be a couple of interesting ball games tonight, though.
I think so, and it will be very fascinating to see if Vegas does fall tonight, what they come back with at 2 o'clock on Sunday, because that's a short turnaround. They're all short in the WNBA, but that's a short turnaround, and you kind of have already had to pick yourself up off the mat, so to speak. But now all of a sudden, with the Fever, maybe looking at a closeout game, this will be a massive one tonight. And if Vegas does not get the win, we'll find out what they're really made of, and we'll kind of find out if that championship pedigree can kind of bleed through. Should be a fun couple nights tonight and Sunday of basketball.
Europe has taken a lead in the Ryder Cup. As near as I can tell, they are leading 3-1. Their top 3 pairings all fell earlier today. First time that's happened on U.S. soil in the history of the competition. So, not off to a great start are the U.S. in the Ryder Cup.
No, didn't get to watch any this morning, unfortunately. I had the alarm set, was ready to go. I was, going to sleep last night, dreaming of coffee and, ready to watch the early round, and then poof, it elapsed, and I digress. But this is, we're not full lemon booty moments just yet for the U.S., but you don't want to start dilly-dallying around. It'd be nice if they could restore a little bit of order here in this afternoon wave, kind of at least even it back up, and maybe kind of, dare I say, even get ahead, because if you roll into the weekend, even though it's on, foreign soil, as it were, for the European squad, you don't want these guys playing with extra confidence. They have a loaded roster, and I would feel much more confident, I hate to say it, I feel much more confident about this European team coming into the U.S. and winning than I would this current U.S. team going to Europe and winning. So they're not going to be phased. They're not going to be rattled. It'll be up to the U.S. to at least kind of put them on their heels as much as possible, hopefully by the end of the day.
Yeah, it looks like they have the U.S. team has kind of rallied here in the second session. Ben Griffin and Bryson DeChambeau and Cameron Young and Justin Thomas both up in their 4-ball series against Tommy Fleetwood and Justin Rose and Aberg and Rasmus Højgaard, maybe. So it looks like they've got a chance to maybe pick up a couple here in the second session and, get out of the day feeling a little bit better about themselves. But yeah, not a great start at all.
Not a great start. In Bethpage Black, that's the course that kind of eats its young. It doesn't matter if you're U.S. born or European born. They're going to really give you all you got. So hopefully take care of business. Like I said, if you roll in, I'd feel a hell of a lot more confident and a hell of a lot better if you can maybe put up some decent numbers this afternoon, because the longer this thing goes, if it rolls into Sunday and Europe is either 1 point back or within striking distance of winning, it would not be a pretty scene, I don't think, for the boys in red, white, and blue. So hopefully they can shore it up today and then come out and play with some confidence tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you can survive one bad day.
As long as it's not too bad.
Yeah. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, and we'll have more for you on Monday on how things go there on Bethpage Black. Man, NSC, we were talking so glowingly about them for such a long period of time, and now it's like, are they ever going to win another game in MLS play? They've got the Dynamo from Houston coming to town tomorrow night. Now, again, Wade, the Dynamo coming in, the MLS season is kind of spiraling away from them, but they've got the U.S. Open Championship matchup Wednesday out at Austin, and we've talked about this. You've talked about this. Valaire has talked about this when he's been on with us. How do you balance how you approach Saturday versus Wednesday?
That is why Coach B.J. Callahan gets the big bucks, because this is a tricky tightrope to kind of walk. And, it'd be one thing if NSC was sitting here second in the East or, third overall. They are really taking a tumble. And we talked about it earlier in the week. They're going to make the playoffs by the fact that virtually every team in the MLS makes the playoffs. But, you want to put forward some positive momentum domestically or in league competition. But as far as coming into Wednesday, if you win Wednesday and you miss the playoffs, you'll still feel pretty rough. You'll still feel pretty bad. At least I am going to be as a fan. But if you can win Wednesday, however you get into the playoffs, you'll take kind of whatever you can get, because, again, at the end of the day, we're still, as much as we don't want to maybe fully realize it or admit it, still in somewhat of a rebuilding mode. So the fact that you could go out and maybe win a trophy, your first in franchise history, and then, maybe make some noise in the postseason in league play, I'd take that. Everybody would have taken that in the preseason, and winning a trophy Wednesday night would cure everything. So whatever you got to do to kind of get that roster set up, I'm going all in on Wednesday. I'm not trotting out, a C or D team tomorrow by any stretch, and that's why Callahan's going to try and thread the needle, as I like to say, try and balance maybe getting a win. Playing at home makes this tremendously a easier situation because you should hopefully take care of a decent but not great Houston team at home. If you can thread the needle, get your guys some minutes, maybe get up early and then get them some rest to get ready for Wednesday, that'd be best case scenario.
NSC 15-5-11, Houston 9-9-13 coming into tomorrow night's matchup. You can see it on Apple TV. But again, like you said, that final Wednesday out at Austin, and not for nothing, but I think if Nashville was able to win some hardware in B.J. Callahan's first full season, it's a little bit of validation for him as well.
100%. And, the vibes will be so high Wednesday. It kind of stinks because you still have so much hypothetically so much if you make a deep postseason run. The feel goods will have worn off by the time, you're maybe, unless you obviously win the whole thing, your feel goods will have worn off a little bit. But when you look back, you'll say, hey, we won a trophy. We pulled ourselves out of absolute mediocrity and obscurity into, midway through the season, one of the top teams, if not the top team in the entire league. And we won a trophy. You'll take that all day, 6 ways to Sunday. But can you go out and do it? It's going to be a tough match. I will not be shocked. Vegas basically predicting all over the board. Nashville is plus 155 to win, but Austin's only plus 150 to win. A draw is set for 230. This feels kind of Leagues Cup-ish, Mo, from 2 years ago when Messi and crew came to town. Feels like it's going to be a tightly contested game. We know Austin is in a similar situation in Nashville. They want to win a trophy for the first time. It feels like it'll be tightly contested, and to me, I will not be shocked if we're talking extra time / penalty kicks.
Here's a question. What is Gary Smith thinking?
Well,
I mean, coaches get replaced, managers get replaced, that kind of thing. But, particularly during that stretch where NSC couldn't be beaten, that kind of thing. And now with them, within striking distance of the U.S. Open Cup and that kind of thing. I mean, how, when you've been, deposed, does that hit you?
That's a great question. Competitively, obviously, it's got to sting, right? I don't know the terms of his contract, but financially, he might be saying, okay, best of luck to you lads. My checks are still cashing. On the other hand, though, man, just putting it back into perspective like that, I was at that Leagues Cup final 2 years ago. If you win that, and that was a much trickier needle thread then in terms of your roster management, because NSC absolutely tanked after that Leagues Cup final. They did not fare well the rest of the MLS calendar. But it was about a month up from where we are now. And this is a one-off match coming up Wednesday. If they win that match, maybe we're still talking about Gary Smith as the head coach with that trophy in tow, defeating Messi and company here at the Castle. But didn't happen. Also, to that point, to kind of an overarching point here, we're not talking about a 12-13 match unbeaten streak with that kind of offense if Smith is in charge. They would have dropped some points along the way. He was kind of he is an English native, and he kind of has that old school. As an Everton fan, I can say this, sometimes a draw is as good as a win when you're a certain type of franchise. And NSC tactically was kind of built under Smith not to get blown out, not to really lose a ton of matches, but they were kind of shorting themselves in terms of their number of wins with their limited offense. So kind of two different strokes there in terms of coaching style, and we see the highlights of both. Had a very sustained and run of success under Smith, but when it fizzled out in a big way. Callahan, much more high variance, going to lose some games you're probably not supposed to, but also probably going to win some games you're not supposed to, and Nashville has certainly done that this year.
And you've said that in the past, Wade, you're going to play a lot of close games when you play the style that you played under Gary Smith. And every time I hear that, it makes me think about those Titans teams where everything seemed to come down to a field goal at the end and that kind of thing. You're and it almost like you're playing for that at the end. It's kind of uncanny, the resemblance in play style between those two franchises right here in the same town like that.
Absolutely. And and in addition to the last name being the same, the parallels when you get sold, quote unquote, Brian Callahan, I mentioned it in the first hour, you're getting sold high-flying offense, a little more modern, attacking, free-flowing American football. You're getting the same when you get B.J. Callahan, a little more innovative offense, a little more pronounced effort there. But that's also not to say that, Mike Vrabel wasn't a great coach. A guy that could grind out a 13-10 win. Gary Smith grind out a 1-1 draw against the team he had no business getting a 1-1 draw against. But then also, Vrabel losing a game 20-10 because his offense could only put up 10 and the defense eventually kind of broke. Gary Smith, same deal. Losing a match 2-0 because the defense could only do so much and the offense wasn't there. It is kind of oddly peculiar how the two styles have kind of mirrored one another. safe to say, obviously, NSC's has fared to this point, at least, a whole lot better than the ones we've seen from the Titans.
Yeah. But there's no Tavondre Sweats on the boys in gold, I don't guess. So NASCAR round of
hey, real quick, I got to give a shout out to the roadies. We'll talk about it more, next week. But huge crew is making the trip down on Wednesday. It is going to be epic, and for as much as Austin is getting to play this game at home, Nashville is going to be heard from and represented. So shout out to all the roadies who organized from the moment that the final whistle indicated where Nashville was going. They put things in motion. Valera and company will be down there from 615 Soccer. So should be an impressive showing before, during, and after the match from the fans. We certainly hope the effort matches it from the team.
So they're going to have some friendly faces out there in Austin then, is what you're saying.
Yep. Once upon a time, I was looking at going and waffled, and the next day the flights had basically tripled, so that will be all for me. But I'll be watching it from the couch on Wednesday and looking forward to hopefully seeing NSC hoist their first ever trophy.
That would be awesome. Maybe we can catch up with Valera before he gets out of town then next week. So stay tuned for that. NASCAR's round of 12 goes to Kansas for the second race in that round this weekend. And if I'm reading this right, Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Tyler Reddick, and Bubba Wallace are desperately in need of something good to happen either this weekend or next weekend to make it into the round of 8. They are below the cutoff line at this moment. The top 8 drivers, again, going into the second race in the 3-race round of 12, are Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, and Chase Briscoe. Blaney having won this past weekend up at New Hampshire and getting the lobster. That's funny to me. But obviously big race this weekend.
Big race. Kyle Larson, a pretty heavy favorite coming into this one. Heather's guy at Heather's track. Shouldn't be surprised. Be interesting to see if he obviously pulls it up. You mentioned Blaney. He's 4th in your odds coming into this, kind of tied with William Byron. But I mentioned Kyle Larson's your favorite, quote unquote. Denny Hamlin, Byron, and Blaney are all kind of lumped in the middle there. And, will not be shocked if Larson comes out and just kind of puts on a clinic, but we'll also not be shocked if, somebody that's not even in the field comes out and kind of puts a little fly in the ointment over the course of the weekend.
Well, I mean, you almost saw that this past weekend with Josh Bell, who had finished last in each of the races in the round of 16. Blaney having to hold him off to win at New Hampshire, Barry from Hendersonville finishing second. So, I mean, clearly anything can happen. But I wonder what impact that has on the officials and that kind of thing when somebody who is a non-playoff driver is racing for the front like that. What do you think, and how does that go over? Because, I mean, you want the excitement of one of the playoff drivers actually winning the race, I would think. And, to your point, kind of the fly in the ointment kind of thing there.
Yeah, you got to get creative. NASCAR PR getting their big bucks there in the sense of when you got a guy who's, kind of proven over the course of the season or even the postseason that they're not one of your quote-unquote elites, and then lo and behold, they win. You get creative when you spin that and say on any given, race day, anybody can come out, and that's why we always tune in. It does feel sportsbooks are only offering 2 championship contenders at the moment, but Blaney and Byron. Blaney already's obviously through to the round of 8, and Byron is, pretty much right there. So those 2 guys, at least, with momentum. Momentum in NASCAR is always such a funny concept to me because I'm sure it exists on some level, but to what level you can't really quantify. So should be a fun weekend out in Kansas.
There we go. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, Joel Anderson of The Ringer will be joining us to talk some college football. And don't forget, in our final segment, Wade and I will be giving you our 10 weekend winners from the Wonder Slate. Stick around for all of that after this.
in a forest at Nashville Zoo. New creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. This is the weekend warm-up. And joining us now from the Ringer, it's Joel Anderson to help us talk a little college football. Joel, good afternoon.
Hey, Maurice, good to see y'all, man. The Tennessee Orthopedic, what was it again?
The Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia,
All
TOA.
Right, that's a lot of words.
That is a lot of words. Yes, you are right. And sometimes they don't all get out, Joe.
Hey, man, you did it. You did it expert. You did a great job there. So
that time.
You're professional. You're professional. You did.
Hey, what's on your radar heading into this college football weekend?
Man, well, first of all, I hope, and I haven't seen any news about this, I hope Disney and Sinclair can get it together so I can watch my football this weekend. The rumor was allegedly that maybe ABC and Disney might withhold Saturday games over the Jimmy Kimmel stuff. So if I can watch football, man, there's just almost too much football to focus on, right? Like, the Penn State Oregon game, you got Bama and Georgia strapping it back up. Right now tonight, my boys at TCU are going into Arizona State, and that may be a low-key battle for the Big 12. But I think given where you guys are, probably LSU, Ole Miss, that's probably one that in y'all neck of the woods that y'all are more interested in. So yeah, the SEC has some games that should do a lot to figure out, like, all right, who's real? Like, who's real? Who's going to be playing in the championship game first week in December?
Your TCU Horned Frogs. Give us your quick and dirty on that matchup with Arizona State.
Well, the thing is that TCU is coming off of a big rivalry win over SMU last week. And they've had to turn right back around, short week, and go on the road and play at Tempe. The one thing about Arizona State is Arizona State came out of nowhere last year, right? They went from 4-8 to qualifying for the college football playoff. And so I want to see how real they are. They've got Sam Levitt back there at quarterback. They got Raleek Brown, who's a transfer from USC, as running back. They had a lot of people returning. They may have, one of the best receivers in the country and Jordan Tyson. So it's a lot to ask for TCU to turn back around and go on the road and play against a team that good. But the thing is, if you're going to be a playoff contender, if you're going to win the Big 12 championship, these are the games you got to win. If you're as good as people think you can be, and people right now seen TCU play pretty well so far. You got to win that game. Like, it's just not. There's just not a lot of excuses. It's not like, when Nick Saban had Alabama rolling, they're like, man, we got to go on the road and play at Florida. It was like, well, hey, we're Alabama. We're supposed to win that game. So if you are who we think you're supposed to be, then you got to win these games.
Joel, real quick, TCU quarterback Josh Hoover, love this, by the way, 1,000 exact passing yards entering tonight. Does he throw for another 350 plus versus Arizona State? Are we talking a game played in the 40s in your mind, or do the defenses maybe set the tone this evening?
I could see a game more like 35-31, something like that. I don't know if he'll get 350, but I would expect something over 200. Like, I feel like that's the sort of the meeting. If he's not over 200, then something is going wrong. Because they're getting back they're starting running back Kavori and Barnes. He missed last week with an injury, and I think he'll be playing this week. So you hope you don't have to air it out like that, right? That like you can level things out with an effective ground game. So I think that they'll have some opportunities. TCU has some amazing receivers. Eric McAllister had like 8 receptions for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns last week, and probably should have had a 4th. I'm not a person that complains about officiating, but that was kind of a whack call, but whatever.
Yeah, okay.
TCU has some firepower, man, and it's like, I've been really critical of Sonny Dykes over the last couple of years, but this, I feel, is good about this team as I have since the 2022 national semifinal, the national final run, right? Like, I don't know if they're as good as that team, but they're shaping up. You look at it and be like, okay, they've got some athletes and they're not making stupid mistakes. And, the defense looks like it's shored up a little bit. So, I can see Josh Hoover going out there and having himself a day tonight.
Joel, I want to ask you about another game too, kind of a little bit off the beaten path, but Notre Dame's going to test its waters in the South yet again after going to Texas A&M last year, falling at home to them this year. They get a matchup versus Arkansas. This is an elimination game for Notre Dame, right? They got to win out to go to the college football playoff, right?
Oh yeah, there's no more mulligans for Notre Dame. Like they've lost the 2 that they're going to be allowed to lose, right? If a 3-loss team gets into the playoff this year, it'll be a team that's won the conference championship, or it'll be somebody like, I don't even want to say Alabama, but, somebody along those lines, LSU, somebody that they're like, all right, well, those 3 losses make a lot of sense. But Notre Dame, you can't, you lost to A&M on your home field. People may be willing to overlook the loss at Miami. That's a tough spot. You had a quarterback, starting on the road for the first time in CJ Carr, but Arkansas ain't Miami. Arkansas ain't Texas A&M. Like, they've got Taylor Green. He might be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the country. He's looked really good, but man, Arkansas can be had. Like, they can be scored on. Memphis did it to them. I watched a little bit of that game, and I was like, oh, there wasn't that much resistance from that Arkansas defense. So if Notre Dame is who we think they are, if they're supposed to be a team, they were one of the people that people thought would be there at the end of the year for the national championship. So if they're who we think they are, they're supposed to go into Arkansas and win that game. It could be a tough game, but they're supposed to win that game.
Joel Anderson of The Ringer joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Joel, I want to go back to the Big 12 for just a second, because it was so out of control last year, and it looks like it could be that way again. We talked about TCU and Arizona State tonight. Tomorrow you got Arizona and Iowa State. And first of all, the idea of discussing that as a conference game still blows my mind.
Crazy.
But 2,
crazy. It don't make no sense, man.
None. It don't make no sense. Exactly. But both undefeated coming into this ball game, and Arizona coming to the Midwest, going to Ames, Iowa, taking on the Cyclones. Interesting matchup.
Yeah, man. I think Arizona kind of came out of nowhere. So last year they had they took a step back because they had done well under Jed Fish, and then Jed Fish leaves for Washington, and Brennan comes from San Jose State. And I guess you should expect that there's going to be a transition year, right? That it's going to take a little bit of a time. But man, they've looked pretty good so far. And Arizona beat Kansas State. People thought that Kansas State was supposed to be the contender this year, right? Like they were one of the, I think they had the second best odds on FanDuel for winning the Big 12, and they've been a real disappointment. But part of that is that they just lost to Arizona. So Arizona might be good. They still got Noah Fafita there, quarterback. For people remember Noah Fafita from when he and man, I'm not gonna bang a homeboy's name, T. McMillan. You know, he's in the league now. but they had that connection, and so you know, looks like things are going pretty good there. They've got a out of this world safety, and I think his name is Justice Smith. So Arizona has some talent, but man, as a person that is sort of invested in the Big 12, because I don't want there to be separation among the P4. Like, I know that, I know what the SEC and the Big Ten doing, man. They're like, man, we don't need all of y'all. All of y'all can't come. In 5 years, whenever there's this major realignment, a lot of schools are going to get left behind. And so if you are a Big 10 or Big 12 partisan, like I am, you need Iowa State to be one of those teams that stays unblemished for as long as possible. They can't lose games like this. And so Iowa State has already gotten people's attention. They won the first game of the year over in Ireland against Kansas State. They went on the road and won Cyhawk and beat Iowa. So that's a marquee out of conference victory. So they need to kind of keep that schedule blemish, and they're a really tough team. Matt Campbell always has them ready to go. Rocco Beck, a senior quarterback, he's been in that program for a long time. So it's set up for Iowa State to win this game, but I would not be surprised if Arizona puts a scare in them at the very least.
Indiana dismantling Illinois last week, relative to what you expected. What was that?
Bro, so there's one thing. I never thought Illinois was real. You know what I mean? Like, I was just kind of what we were basing their preseason expectations on was them like feasting on the likes of Northwestern at the end of the year and beating South Carolina in a bowl game. And you know how bowl games are. Like, it can feed whatever narrative you want it to feed, right? Yeah. And so sometimes, a team will be, a bunch of guys, I'm going to the league. I'm not going to go play at the Bank One bowl game or whatever, or, the Capital One bowl game, or we just don't care about this or whatever. Illinois won that game. They won it fair and square, fine, but there was a lot put on that victory. And so I think Illinois has been overrated all year. And so you saw that in the game on Saturday. Now, did I think that Indiana was supposed to beat their ass like that? No. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, Indiana, man, there's a part of me, I was looking at that game and watching, watching some of the clips from it again this week. And I was like, man, I don't think they're a national title contender, right? But I was like, but is that just bias? Like, if Indiana had Ohio State Buckeyes on their helmet, like, would I say that, right? Like, because they look really good. They might have, and Fernando Mendoza, the best quarterback in the country. They've got great wideouts. They've got a good running back, and the defense, man, that's the thing that people sort of overlooked. Indiana put Illinois in hell. Their pass rush, they had Luke Altmaier, the Illinois quarterback, running all night long. Man, he was under. I mean, he looked like he was just could not keep them off of him all game. So I'm like, I don't know, man. Indiana might. I don't want to hype it up. I don't know if they're national championship contenders, but if somebody were to say to me, hey, if Michigan had this resume, if Penn State had this resume, would you rank them in the top 5? And, that would be a fair argument to make. I was like, maybe I'm just using Indiana's history against them because they look really, really good so far.
Joel, a couple quick ones. Want to just real quick on the Big Ten here. Since you guys mentioned games that don't really make much sense, what about an 11 a.m. kickoff for USC at Illinois this week, Joel? Does that get you excited as a Big Ten / death of the Pac-12 guy?
I mean, nobody, no offense to Illinois, nobody's been excited to watch Illinois, maybe since the Juice Williams era or something like that. Juice Williams and Aurelius Ben. But,
and Mendenhall.
And Mendenhall, that's right. Rashard Mendenhall, shout out.
Shout out. That's
right. But, I mean, I saw Lincoln Riley complaining about that start. I'm like, well, toughen up. Like, this is what you all wanted. The reason, I mean, I'm not saying that, that they talked their way into the Big Ten. but they reached an agreement with Kevin Warren and the rest of them folks that were there at the Big Ten to do this. So this is what's going to happen. What you were in a league where you could have all the 12 and 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock kickoffs that you wanted on the West Coast. This is what you wanted. So, you better. We don't want to hear your complaints. You got to show up and play. Like you're the one that decided that every now and again you want to have a road game in Piscataway, New Jersey, right? Every now and again you want to have a road game in Happy Valley. So this is what you got to live with, brother. And so now for the kids themselves, like, will this be tough? Like I'm sure you're going to see games like that, not just this one, but throughout the year where guys, teams have to travel and they're trying to, get their legs. They're playing on basically 8 o'clock their time schedules. You know what I mean? So it's not to say that USC is going to have an easy day there at Illinois, but man, this is what you wanted. This is what the money is for. So I don't want to hear y'all whining, bro. You could have stayed in the Pac-12.
Other end of the spectrum though, Joel, Ohio State at Washington this weekend. Surely not, right?
Right. Well, look, man. So I think people have forgotten about Washington because, right, like last year they were off the radar. They didn't have, they were solid, but they didn't have, they didn't have the follow up to a national championship year, right? Like they weren't in the mix all year long. But man,
you chalk some of that up to the coaching change, though, right?
Coaching change, they lost a lot of guys. You lose a 2-year starter like Michael Penix, a guy who was, an experienced guy. Of course, you're going to have some, some growing pains and some transition stuff. But man, look, they have, I think, one of the 3 best offenses in the country right now. At least, advanced statistics show that. Washington has one of the best home field advantages in the country, right? And the Washington fans corrected me on this because I was talking up Autzen in Oregon, and they're like, actually, the loudest recorded stadium on record is at Husky Stadium. So, okay, fair enough. So, yeah, man, and this is the first true road game for Ohio State this year. Like, Julian Sand has looked really good. But you know how, like, when Arch Manning had to go play at Columbus, and we were like, man, this is his first real road game. It's going to be a really intimidating environment. Well, now it's true for Julian Sand. He's had some reps, but this is his first time on the road. So, I'm not saying that Washington will win that game. I still think that Ohio State just has so much talent that ultimately they're going to win out. But I could see them being in a situation where people are like in the fourth quarter on Saturday, like, hey man, you better turn to ABC or whatever because Washington's giving them a run for their money.
Joel Anderson of the Ringer joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Joe, last week in the SEC, and you talked about it at the onset, we only had really one top 25 game, only one, with Auburn and Oklahoma.
Auburn, Oklahoma.
This time we got a couple of them. Alabama going to Georgia, LSU going to Ole Miss. I think Georgia and Alabama is the one that has a lot of people's eyes. Any thoughts about that one?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, so a lot of people were out on Alabama, man. I mean, you saw how everybody got crazy when they lost to Florida State. And it may just be that Florida State is really good and Alabama was in a tough spot because how do you prep for what Florida State had last year, right? Like, I mean, you're not prepping for the same 2-10 team that you saw on film last year. So I'm not surprised in retrospect that Alabama had a difficult time in that game. And so Alabama has had a chance. They went up and won at Wisconsin. They've looked good in all these other games. So are they a real playoff contender? Well, we're going to find out, right? Now, if they lose this game, I'm not saying that it knocks them out of the playoff race, but it'll make it that much more difficult for them to get in. They won't have any more mulligans to go. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this, man. Like, I think that Alabama is better than we saw in that Florida State game, and that sort of has fixed the impression of the Crimson Tide in our heads. But they're gettable. Like Georgia, they did win that game in Tennessee, but I mean, they really got pushed to the edge there. I mean, all things being equal, I mean, if Tennessee doesn't miss that field goal, we having a whole different conversation about Georgia right here, right? And Georgia can't get any pressure on the quarterback, right? Like they can't generate a pass rush with their front four. They've got a blitz. They don't have a defensive lineman with the sack all year long. So for a guy like Todd Simpson, who's been very accurate, who's really good in a clean pocket, He's been looking really good so far. I think that Alabama could go on the road and get something to Georgia. But again, like the reality is too, it's a lot to ask, man. Georgia has, I think, the longest home winning streak in the country. That's a tough place to win. They still got all those athletes down there. Gunnar Stockton has shown that he's better than he was in that bowl game. So I would expect, again, we'll see another crazy close game. But for for Kirby Smart, it's like, if you can't beat Alabama now, like you got them on your home field, they've got a young quarterback over there at Alabama. They've already, they've shown their weaknesses in that Florida State loss. If you can't get them right now, and I think Kirby Smart is 1-6 against Alabama, one out of the last 7. I mean, if you're not gonna get them now, when you gonna get them?
And it's kind of wild that LSU and Ole Miss it almost kind of feels like the undercard to that ball game. But what Ole Miss did to Tulane last week, and Wade kind of set it up when we were talking about it. Said Lane had not covered 2 weeks in a row, and they took care of that this past weekend against Tulane. But this game here is, I don't even think it's sneaky good. It's just good.
Oh yeah, I mean, so I think the thing every year with Ole Miss, and y'all know, y'all in that neck of the woods, is like, how real are y'all for real? Like, y'all real? Like, what is this real? You win those non-conference games. Ole Miss beats everybody, or most times they beat everybody they're supposed to, but they never beat when the talent is even or they're at a slight deficit. You hardly see them winning those games, right? Like, we haven't seen that since like the Chad Kelly, Hugh Freeze era when they lucked up and beat Alabama, about a decade ago, right? But usually Ole Miss doesn't win this game, and so they've got LSU at home. They're a slight favorite in this game, even though normally, a home favorite usually gets a 3-point bump. I think they're like a 1.5 point favorite in this game. So yeah, man, like Lane kind of has a pretty good situation here, and LSU comes in here, and again, how good are they really? Like that Clemson win, we already see. Okay, like let's throw that out, right? You didn't look good. You haven't really looked. The offense hasn't looked good. They beat Florida, but you had 5 interceptions and won by 10 points. You know what I mean? Like how good is LSU really? So, in Ole Miss seems like they're equipped to make LSU fight. I actually kind of feel like Ole Miss might win this game. The thing is, though, Trinidad Chambliss, he's a storybook thing, right? Came up from Division II Ferris State, and I'm happy for the brother. I want to see him succeed, but he ain't never seen nothing like what he gonna see on Saturday. This is the first time, like he's gonna be going from the JV to all Madden level, basically. Like he's not seen a defense like this in his life, right? Like not even in practice. So it's gonna go up real hard for him on Saturday, but you got to think that if anybody can walk him through it and help set him up to succeed, Lane Kiffin, if he can do one thing, allegedly that's one of the things he can do.
Joel, real quick, I want to ask you, you mentioned that factor of what do we know about these teams or how good are they really? On paper, your biggest matchup this week is your nightcap in Happy Valley. And my question to you is, how good is Oregon? How good is Penn State? They kind of have equally similar pummelings of various levels of competition. This could be an all-time game, but to me it also feels like it could be a dud, and one of these teams blows the other out Saturday night. So
I think the stat that I've heard, James Franklin is 4-20 against top 5 teams.
That is a valid stat. Yes.
Yeah, 4-20 versus top 5 teams. Yeah. So again, this is kind of the same thing. If not now, when? Mm-hmm. Right? Like you've got it. You got the senior quarterback. You brought your NIL and your collective brought back all this talent for this run. They did the Michigan Ohio State thing where they brought everybody back. This is supposed to be your year, right? And you don't have to go to Autzen. You get Oregon to come to you. They've got a quarterback who is not a freshman, but is effectively a freshman. Like, he started a little bit at UCLA, transferred to Oregon, set out last year. And now this is going to be, he's never going to face an environment like he's going to face on Saturday, the whiteout thing. That is an amazing environment for a game. So he's going to have to deal with that. And so it's like, hey, man, James Franklin, it's on you, bro. Like, this is your team. This is your moment. If you don't win this game, it's going to be one of those things like, I don't ever want to hear about Penn State again, right? Like, don't talk to me about national champion Penn State, because if you can't win this game, right, then it says something about you in this program. And like, maybe it's not fair. Like James Franklin is still a very successful coach. more people would rather be Penn State than not, right?
Mhm.
But it still is like when all things are equal and you got to go against somebody that can punch back at you, you don't do it. And this is all I'll say because about that. I've never seen Drew Aller have a good game against a good defense. So if he has a good game against a good defense on Saturday, it'll be the first time I've ever seen it. Okay. So that's what Penn State has to walk through. And they have not looked good on offense this year. It's not like he's run it up against these bad teams so far. It's just like, all right, man, so you waiting to turn it up against Oregon. Good luck.
Joel Anderson of the Ringer joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Joel, before we let you go, Virginia Tech, UCLA, Oklahoma State. Who's next?
So I gotta say Florida, man. I think Billy Napier might be the next one up out of there. I'm sure I'm skipping over some, I'm trying to think. There was some smaller school that I was looking at, and I was like, "Woo, they're gonna probably run him out of there if they got the money for it." But
UAB probably.
Yeah, that's right. It was Trent Dilfer, and I was like, Trent Dilfer kind of, he didn't lose as bad at Tennessee as I thought he was going to, so I kind of gave him a reprieve. But Florida, man, like them people are mad. They have the hardest schedule in the world. And if DJ Lagway, I don't know if he's unhealthy, if he just didn't get a chance to rehab like he wanted to nobody cares. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's just like Florida is at the point now. They're like, well, if we have to lose DJ Lagway to get rid of Billy Napier, fine, right? And so Florida's not going to get a reprieve, man. It's only going to be hard the rest of the way. They don't have any.
And Napier got his reprieve last year.
Right. That last year was his reprieve. And then people were like, oh, they look pretty good at the end of the year. They beat LSU. And, man, if we get rid of him, we're going to lose DJ Lagway. Ain't nobody talking about that no more. Now it's like, all right, Florida, I understand that you have a tough schedule. You're Florida. People are supposed to look at your schedule and be like, man, we got to play Florida. Not Florida look at their schedule and be like, man, we got to play Texas, right? Like Florida fans don't want to hear that. So, yeah, I kind of felt like Napier is, to an artful phrase as a dead man walking. I think that that'll be the next job that opens, and probably I think on the whole the best job in the next cycle coming up. So yeah, that's the one I'd be looking at.
There we go. Joe, we appreciate you taking some time with us on this Friday afternoon, and look forward to catching up with you again soon, man. Thank you.
Always fun with you guys, man. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, peace.
Let's take a break. Let's come back and let's give you the Wonder Slate. Wade and I will give you our 10 weekend winners here to close out the week on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. We'll be right back.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It's the final segment of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That means it's time for the Wonder Slate. Wade and I will give you our 10 weekend winners. And we did a pretty good job of doing so last weekend, Wade. So let's keep the momentum up.
Yeah, let's keep the mojo rolling. Vibes are high. Our records are even. We both are sitting there with 26 wins on the season, 18 losses. We're making some shekels as we move and groove here throughout this college football season. To the slate we go. Wonder Slate Week 5. All of our odds provided by our friends at Circus Sportsbook. Make sure you check them out at the Mint Gaming Hall up there, just up the road in Franklin, Kentucky. We start with the Friday game. There's a couple good ones tonight, Mo, but we can only really choose one. And in honor of Joel being on the show, might as well pick this one. Number 24, TCU at now unranked Arizona State. Arizona State out in Tempe is favored by 3 in this 8 p.m. kickoff that'll be shown on Fox.
You know, I want to go with Joel's Horned Frogs, but I feel like Arizona State covers 3. I think this might be about a touchdown game by the time it's all said and done. I like the Sun Devils here. Give me Arizona State at home.
Yep, good pick. And I'm going to pick TCU just because Joel was tugging at my heartstrings there. I'd feel bad. I will feel bad if I feel bad if TCU loses and I pick Arizona State. I'll feel really bad if I pick Arizona State and they win. So I'm going to take TCU. A little emotional hedge there, and at least can comfort Joel. After
Absolutely.
that. I think it's gonna be a fun game. I do think your read is probably correct, but my heart is winning out on this Friday night here.
Well, Joel's a good dude. I get it.
Roll into Saturday, and we got one of the games we talked about with Joel. Number 21 USC. Yes, USC is at number 23 Illinois. The Trojans are favored by a 6.5 point margin, Mo. They had the last kickoff last Saturday. They got the first kickoff this Saturday, 11 a.m. on Fox.
You know, and I really loathe to reward Lincoln Riley for his whining about this early morning kickoff and that kind of thing. But man, Illinois just got taken to the woodshed last week, and I can't pick them. I've got to go with the Trojans here, but Lincoln, you're on watch, man.
Yeah, makes sense, right? I'm going to take Illinois, and man, I wish I had about another 1.5 maybe to the goods here. But I think Illinois rallies. They did get their doors blown off last week, and we'll never know exactly what happened. Indiana's pretty good. Illinois was not obviously as bad as they played on Saturday, and I think that trip will get to USC a little bit. I don't know that Illinois wins the game, but I think they cover 6.5 on Saturday morning. Speaking of Saturday morning, second game in the 11 a.m. window that we'll pick, number 22 Notre Dame is at Arkansas, and Notre Dame, Mo, is favored by 4.5.
And I think Notre Dame is favored by 4.5, as much because of what Arkansas just did at Memphis last week. No disrespect to Ryan Silverfield and the Tigers, but I think if you're an SEC team, if you're a good SEC team, you're supposed to win that ball game. You know how much it pains me to pick Notre Dame, but I'm going to go with the Irish by at least a touchdown in this one.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame, I'm with you. I'm taking the points here. They win by at least 4.5. I would not be shocked if they win by, 10 to maybe even 2 touchdowns. Man, and I'm kicking myself for picking Arkansas last week because shame on me that was a classic look-ahead spot versus a really, really good Memphis team. And I didn't put all the puzzle pieces together, so I got burned. So with getting burned, plus I think Notre Dame's a better overall team, I'm taking the Irish by 4.5 on Saturday morning. I'm with you. Let's roll into the 2:30 window. Here's where you got to start making decisions, folks. Only so many slots on that YouTube TV multi-view, so choose wisely. We got Auburn. You only get 4 boxes, Mo. Auburn at number 9, Texas A&M. A&M is favored by 6.5. This game will be shown on ESPN.
I'm a huge Marcel Reed fan. I'm not sold on Auburn. They just dropped a tough one against Oklahoma. I think they have another tough Saturday here. I'm going with the Aggies to cover.
Yeah, I still don't know what to make of Auburn, which is weird, right? Because we thought we would find out more about Auburn from that game last week, but they hung in there but didn't win the game. And then we find out Mateer wins after battling through injury the whole game. So I don't know, but I still like Texas A&M. Something about them, and just the way they were able to sneak out of South Bend with that victory. Yeah, I'm with you. Give me the Aggies in a 2:30 kickoff by 6.5. They win by 7, and we're good to go. This one is intriguing, Mo. Number 1 Ohio State at unranked Washington. 2:30 kickoff. The game will be shown on CBS or Paramount Plus. This game and this spread was in the double digits. Something like 98% of the money is coming in on Ohio State, but the number still keeps dropping. We get to pick it at 8.5. Who do you like?
I don't like Washington to win this game, but I don't like 8.5. So I'm going to take the Huskies to cover.
I'm in the same agreement. I want to go out on a limb and pick Washington to win this game. The sailgating, them and Tennessee, the only two venues you can roll up in your boat and tailgate. I love
How cool is that?
out there. Outstanding stuff. Michigan years ago, back when Nate Robinson was a football player still for the Huskies. I got bad memories of Michigan going out there and getting embarrassed by Washington. I'd love for that to happen to the Buckeyes. I don't think they cover the spread, but I do think they win the game. Give me Washington plus 8.5. Other 2:30 kickoff on ABC. It'll be number 4 LSU at number 13 Ole Miss. As we mentioned, this is like one of those great undercard fights we saw a couple weeks ago on the Bud Crawford Canelo bout. I mean, it's an electric matchup, but it can't be the main event. Ole Miss is favored by 1.5 in this one, Mo.
Yeah, it feels like this is probably about a field goal game. And even with, well, I don't even know if he's their backup quarterback at this point. But I like Ole Miss at Oxford. Give me Ole Miss to cover.
Give me Ole Miss as well. And I'll be real curious to see what LSU linebacker, what kind of game Whit Weeks has this week. After Lane's daughter goes with the hard launch on social media. I'll be real curious. Lane tweeted take the over, by the way, in this game for those that want extra action on this one. But I'm taking Ole Miss by 1.5 at 2:30 on ABC. Meanwhile, number 15, Tennessee at undefeated. Yes, I said undefeated Mississippi State. This game kicks off at 3:15. You can see it on the SEC Network.
That 8 points, especially in Starkville, kind of concerns me a little bit, but I'm just not sure Mississippi State is ready necessarily for what Tennessee brings offensively when they are working at their optimal level. So give me the Vols to cover that 8, but I'm a little apprehensive about it.
Yeah, I think Tennessee wins this game somewhere around the 10-14, kind of like that game I mentioned earlier. I think Tennessee wins this game, and I think they cover the 8. I'm picking the Vols. I won't be shocked, though, if Mississippi State has a little something for Tennessee down in the fourth quarter, though. We'll see. Final couple games here. Number 6, Oregon at number 3, Penn State. Mo, Penn State's favored by 3.5.
And we were just talking about it. You know, at some point you feel like Franklin's got to break through in one of these ball games. But, you know, I can't overcome this history. It's tough, Oregon coming all the way across country, but I'm going to go with the Ducks.
I'm going with Oregon as well. Dante Moore, if he has a big game, he will be your new Heisman favorite. He's number 2 in the odds right now, but he will be your favorite if Oregon wins. Give me the Ducks as well, especially with points. Alabama, number 17, at number 5, Georgia. Georgia's favored by 3.
I think Georgia gets it done, and we might be looking at a push when it's all said and done, but I'm going to take the Bulldogs here.
No push will be had, my friend. Alabama wins this game outright. The mastery, something about them uniforms. I know Saban ain't there, but Kirby Smart sees ghosts when Alabama rolls into town. I'm taking Alabama to win the game outright at 6:30 on ABC. Final game. Does BYU go into Colorado? They got a new Ralphie. We played the video this week. Do they win and cover 7 at 9:15?
Man, they win. They don't cover 7. Give me Colorado.
I want to pick Colorado, but BYU's got my attention. Bear Bachmeier making his first ever road start as QB. Give me BYU and 7 to close this out.
There we go. That is your Wonder Slate. That is the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join me and Wade right back here Monday at 2 o'clock. Y'all have a great weekend. Plenty to get after. See you.